From ABC News Radio, KMET 1490 in Southern California. This is BizNinja Entrepreneur Radio with your host, Tyler Jorgensen.
Welcome out to BizNinja Entrepreneur Radio. I am here with Brandon Schwartz, the founder. And man, I don't know all of your cool titles, but DRNXMYTH is the brand. And we're going to learn a little bit more about the brand and how cool it is. But we're also going to learn about Brandon's entrepreneurial journey. Welcome out to the show, Brandon.
Thanks for having me. Much appreciated.
So what is your formal title over there at DRNXMYTH?
I guess formal title is president, co-founder, president, it's a small company. So
yeah. And so you and a college buddy or something created it, right?
Yeah. We didn't create it out of school, but we knew each other in school. We both graduated from USC, and he with a degree in law, and then myself with a degree in entrepreneurial studies. And then we always knew we kind of want to start a business together. And we did a few things. We did a little consulting agency, and then combined forces over this shared interest in craft cocktails.
Yeah. So I love it. I mean, an attorney and an entrepreneur walk into a bar and start a cocktail company, right? So I love it. I think, every good entrepreneur needs a good attorney. That's for darn sure. So let's dial it back a little bit, man. Like, when was the first moment of your life that you realized you were an entrepreneur?
Probably kind of pretty late in the game. I was always into business, and I kind of just didn't really know about business. I always had friends who were a little bit ahead of the curve, back in middle school or something, would be when burning CDs was all the rage and only
right.
people at school, So I would kind of always be riding on those coattails. And then I didn't really have any good ideas of my that went all the way to college. I'd be buying refurbished phones and trying to resell them on eBay and stuff like that. And then in school, in college at SC, we did all these feasibility studies and stuff like that. And I never had any good ideas during that time. And I think it's once when you're in school and you don't really have the fear in you of failing, it's harder to get motivated or have ideas, at least for me. And I graduated. I got involved with one kind of high growth startup, and I was like, oh cool, yeah, no, I could do this. It all clicked for me. But in college, I was like, these are just tests and key terms and stuff that just didn't sink in.
So I was an entrepreneur since I was a kid. And I went to USC later on, after I'd already done a few businesses. And so it was a real different perspective. And I like that you went the education route and then got involved in somebody else's business. And then you're like, okay, now it's all coming together. Let me fire something up. What did, when you and your business partner sat down and decided to launch, how did you decide what you were going to do? And you guys, it'd be really good for you to share with the audience what DRNXMYTH is, because it's a unique concept.
Yeah. Well, the concept, basically, we make the world's first ever fresh bottled craft cocktails. We commercialize different bartenders' recipes into this unique cocktail bottle tech that we made. It twists and combines liquor and fresh cold pressed juice. We never use artificial ingredients, preservatives, nothing like that. It's all what you see on the label is what you have in the bottle. But the the thing that takes it to the next level is the drinks are pressurized at 85,000 PSI with cold water. And that pressure, it brings down the microbial count in the cocktail, in the juice. And so you get these super fresh craft cocktails that last for about 5 months plus while they're refrigerated. So it's become a big hit in and of itself. Wait, what was the beginning of that?
First, that you answered the second half, which was what is DRNXMYTH, what makes it unique. But then how'd you guys decide to do that?
How we decided. Yeah, we both were kind of, entrepreneurial at that point. Lawrence, my business partner, co-founder, he didn't want to be, in law in the traditional sense. He definitely flexes a lot of his, his attorneyism.
Right.
But Yeah, I mean, we had some different ideas, and they just seemed kind of logistically too challenging for us. And we were always meeting over drinks, and we were really familiar with drinks. So he's from Mexico, and my family is big into alcohol. My dad buys like pallets of Fortaleza every couple of years, which is a really kind of key tequila in the space. But at any rate, yeah, we just had this kind of passion for craft cocktails. We knew a lot of the bartenders in LA, and we were like, man, how come we can't like do this on our own at home? And it was like, well, you got to know what you're doing. You got to have ingredients, storage. If you really want to have like ability to just make craft cocktails at any time, it's not really that easy. And then when you go to the store, it's, there's a bunch of stuff that's pasteurized using artificial ingredients. So for us, we were like, seems like there's an opportunity here. He, with his legal background, was able to kind of look at the governing, the regulations around the alcohol. It's called the 3-tier system. And he was really able to kind of see where the holes were for us to kind of capitalize on. I think a lot of people like looked at the category of ready to drink cocktails and tried to do something similar to what we were doing, but kind of got deterred by just how complex the legal side of it is. So, sure. I had a big background in CPG, and we just, we kind of like put together our combined sets of knowledge and skill, and
that's cool.
It's an organic product.
It seems like craft cocktails have kind of taken a recent resurgence over the past, I don't know, season of business, right? Where, especially in LA, it's not just your basics, right? You have bartenders that are creating unique drinks and things like that. And so I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm getting older that I'm seeing that more, but
yeah,
it definitely seems like people are more into creative beverages instead of just like the basics. And so it seems like a good timing to enter the market. When you guys started, what was your first big obstacle and how'd you overcome it?
First big obstacle, how do we overcome it? It was really just kind of figuring out how we could even bring a product like it to market from a licensing, manufacturing and licensing perspective. I can go more in depth, but yeah, I mean, that's like a couple.
What kind of licensing? Like, what do you mean there?
In California, we have
so legal licensing.
Yeah,
like the 3-tier system of everything, not licensing. Because you said you worked with bartenders and stuff like that. So you're not licensing recipes and stuff like that.
No, the IP is ours. We work with the bartenders, and we do like they get some. It's kind of like a commission on sales essentially. So they're incentivized that way, and we collab with them on the recipes. It kind of fits into a template that we've developed. Cool. But licensing, like our co-packing facility in Long Beach is licensed with federal. It's a distilled spirits plant. Yep. So we had to, lobby the TTB and get the requisite licensing for them to be able to hold on to liquor. And now we have like a whole kind of bonded warehouse situation going on there.
Follow all the rules. Yeah. So when did you guys get the first product to market that was actually purchased by someone, like past prototype? When was that?
Past prototype and actually sold to an end consumer, it was 2020, basically January.
Oh man, so you guys are fresh. When like you got the first purchase product, when did you know, okay, like, hey, this might actually like take off and, get some.
Yeah. I mean, kind of always knew that from before we began, because the truth is there's like a lot of stuff out there that just doesn't really cut it. You want to like it. It's got a cool brand look and everything. Sure. And in case it doesn't really, but I'd say, the point where we really started getting traction was like 90 days in to after launch. We had been meditating and planning on this for 5 years before we launched. So we poured over plans and we were pretty tight with the playbook. So about after 90 days, it really started to pick up and become like a machine on its own.
Yeah. So, that's a big deal. I mean, you mentioned you knew that it was different, right? Because there's a lot of products out there that are really just Me Too products. But you guys brought something real unique and new to the market. Have you noticed that there's a need for educating the consumer and educating the buyers on why you guys are different?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's definitely, and that's tough too. At a retail shelf, it's tough to show that this is different than the other bottle that, isn't that much different from it down the way on the shelf. So on Instagram and on Facebook, we definitely have had a lot of traction because we really leverage the visual marketing aspect of the product. It twists, so you have that kind of motion that you can show. And then some of the drinks change colors too. Like, the top will have like a spirit that's red or has some tincture, whatever inside of it that when you twist it, it combines. So there's this visual aspect that's been really kind of the key thing that has helped drive people in. And then, the claims all around it. It's definitely a bit of an education play. But then once they try the product, it's like, cool, they become an evangelist and then they rebuy and they tell a bunch of other people.
Awesome. It's an interesting market because of like the 3-tier system and the restrictions on marketing. What were some of the challenges of getting to the market? And like, again, how'd you overcome those?
Challenges getting to the market. I mean, a lot, there was the bottle itself, which, was a definite pain to produce. We had like 15 different iterations of that. We had to raise capital to be able to, finance the development of it, make molds and pay for engineering and, do shelf life studies and, pressurize it, at the co-packing facility with their big high pressure processing machines. So, I mean, that was definitely a trial. And then, we had, the licensing too. I mean, there was a lot there where we had to get the co-packing facility to agree to a particular type of relationship and then take that contract and then, lobby the TTB to approve it. And then, so there was a lot of that kind of, obstacles that we had to overcome. And then even at this point now, now that we're in market with the 3-tier system, it was, every state has different distribution laws, how you can, sell to an end consumer, where you can ship to, and, who has to take title of the product and when before it can actually be sold. So there's a lot of that we had to become experts in over the last few years.
That makes a ton of sense. You're interesting at not only entering in not only a competitive space, but also a highly regulated space. When you look back at your time studying entrepreneurial studies, how many of those case studies and those courses, like what percentage of that do you think is applicable or that you're using in your career now as an entrepreneur?
I probably am using a lot more than I remember having done at USC. I mean, I'm like 30, I think I'm 30, almost 34. So it's been a while since I've been there, but I mean, they had a pretty good program, honestly. They really kind of focused on trying to train you to become an entrepreneur. It was all about like feasibility, break-even analysis, trying to just really get you worked on, your fundamentals.
Right.
And then, there's definitely a lot that they brought a lot of people in too, Paul Orfala, and even like the professors there were all kind of, entrepreneurs in their own right as well. So, I mean, I would say I probably I think like the mentality, I think, is what probably I took from it the most. And then, once I kind of got into business, I kind of like validated what I had learned. And at this stage, I probably use a lot of it. Probably like 90% of what I learned there, I still kind of like, touch on, because they're business fundamentals.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, the fundamentals are always usable, right? But do you think that you can teach entrepreneurship or business principles that could be applied by an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think it's tough. I think you can kind of teach it, and then like people can kind of try their best, but I think you got to kind of be the type of person that's okay with a little bit of like obscurity, and also, you got to be self-starting. And I think the better way to go about it is go work for a company, learn on their dime, try and work for a company where you're going to be able to move around and have some flexibility with what your role is. Right. And then, use that experience to then, go out and start a business. I don't think it's a great idea to, especially when you're trying to start a business and you have no experience, especially if you're trying to raise capital, you're going to have a hard time getting people to believe in you without a prior success. But is it possible? For sure. I mean, there's so many people that come because they didn't need, college to really kick off a business. They really, right. Their interest and their curiosity is kind of what, and they're, a lot of them are wanting to impress themselves too. So I feel like it just depends on what kind of person you are, but there's options for either way.
I totally agree with that. What did you learn from the like consumer packaged goods and beauty industry that you're applying into the fine spirits industry?
Yeah, it's pretty much everything. I mean, that was like, I was lucky enough to be a part of a few different high growth companies that were led by people that really kind of understood how to get a high net promoter score on your product. And they really kind of focused in on the product before they focused on anything else. They didn't care about the sales plan, the marketing plan, the name of it. All they cared about was making something that they thought would be able to travel by word of mouth, or would be something that people would rebuy, with earnest.
I
So
think you need to explain the net promoter score, because most people don't know what that is.
I'll probably not do a great job.
That's okay. Give us the Brandon Schwartz version of what that is.
Yeah, I kind of qualify it like it's how good is your product at, or your brand at kind of propelling itself forward, without much help from marketing or from sales.
Yeah.
I worked for one brand early on called Brazilian Blowout, and it basically transformed your hair from like mesh wire to silk. You'd go from like Gloria Stefan to Justin Bieber in an hour, and your hair would last like that, smooth and silky soft and shiny for 3 months or so, and you pay $350, and it was life-changing for lots of women out there in the hair care industry. You're basically, you're, as a company, you're either trying to solve volume or you're trying to solve problems related to frizz, and this one basically solved frizz, and it went from 0 to 60 million in 6 months, because the name was good, but then the results on it that was the best marketing. It just pushed the product forward. And I feel like if you focus on trying to make your product as best as possible, make people, want to rebuy it, then, that's the best thing you can do for your company. No amount of marketing and other planning is going to be as good as that.
It's fascinating because there's two sides of this coin. One is the concept of if you build it, they will come, which I don't believe in. But I do believe that you have to build something that is good enough that once you start to market it, it can, like you said, propel itself forward, and that's the concept of net promoter score. The concept is that it will grow on its own along with the marketing and everything else happening, right? So it can be amplified at a faster frequency. And so the Brazilian Blowout was a great example of that. I had no idea the data on that. 0 to 60 million in 6 months is ludicrous. I mean, that's fascinating. But then, I mean, you've worked in other cosmetics and other products in the CPG space. What else did you see in that space? Like, you guys have a really awesome design at DRNXMYTH. Like, it's not just another Me Too product, another like boring bottle, right? There's some complexity to it. There's some there's a finesse to it that is you really can't describe until you've either seen it or really touched it and felt it and dealt with it, right? So did a lot of that come out of your experience designing products that had that beauty angle?
Yeah, of course. I mean, you're in the business of fashion. If you're in CPG, whether or not you're selling clothes, you're selling your look, and you got to get people to be interested. You got to jump off shelves, and you're in the game of visual marketing. I mean, the product has function, right, which relates to the actual core of the value, which is the taste. The function helps unlock this highest quality taste. But on top of that, it's two things. It's twofold. It's like you got to have of something that has a unique position. You can do that with packaging. You can do that with the stuff that you consume inside of the packaging, or you could do it with both. And then you got to make it actually look good too. So that way someone wants to take a picture of it, or when you start doing advertising on it, someone's going to stop and click and, drive through to your site and buy. So it's, you're in the game of fashion. I guess that's the best way to put it. You make sure the stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. Even though it's, food and beverage, it's still fashion. It's still, you got to be able to present. Now, how do you stay productive running an alcohol company? Right. Like you're got to be testing new products, tasting things, right? Yeah. Obviously, you got to stay balanced. What kind of rules and discipline have you had to put in your life to stay productive and keep growing?
Well, I don't show up at the production, the production runs. That's number one. My business partner, Lawrence, is really the magic man when it comes to producing the product. And yeah, it's tough. I know for him, he's got to wake up early mornings, because the production runs can run, 4 or 5 days at a time, and they can be, and he's there to oversee all the taste. Yeah. So he's starting to sip on cocktails at like 5 a.m. sometimes 6 a.m. And you just get used to, spitting out the product, or, trying it without the liquor and just trying the juice, the mix first. But yeah, no, it's tough. And we try not to, we have 15 people too, full time. So there's a little bit of leeway, like on a Friday afternoon, if we want to have a couple of drinks, but these days we don't really find ourselves, enjoying the product as much.
You're past the party phase of the getting it started. Now you're in growth phase.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. What would you say, like some advice to other entrepreneurs, getting started and trying to decide their product? One, what would you say about raising capital versus not raising capital?
Yeah. Well, I would say, it's good to raise capital. It's great to, be able to use money from people that are interested in taking risks and getting high upside. It's tough if you're an entrepreneur and you're using all your savings. I would say don't do that. I would say, if you're thinking of starting something and you have a job, don't quit and just go start that thing. Work on both at the same time. You're way more likely to succeed if you can pay your own bills. I think if you're going to go raise capital, I think it's good to just have data. It's so easy these days to make a little bit of content, run a little bit of advertising, and see what kind of results you get on it. Even surveys and stuff like that. But yeah, I think test before you invest is the best way I can put it.
I'm a big believer in that. Test before you invest. And like you said, it's really easy. We live in a data where our feedback cycle is so much faster than ever, where you can get consumer response and consumer data in minutes or hours, as opposed to, a month or later of trying to get surveys and things like that. So I think that's really smart advice. Especially if someone's new, and has a job, there's nothing wrong with starting something as a side hustle.
And then, you can always try and raise first with like a Start Engine or Kickstarter, Indiegogo, some of these crowdfunding platforms. So there's a lot of avenues, and cash these days obviously is somewhat plentiful. So if you have something, try and take a risk, but, do a calculated risk.
Yeah. Calculated risk is the way to go. What do you think is coming over the next year or two in the industry, and how are you guys preparing for it?
In the alcohol industry, there's a ton of innovation that's happening. I think we spent the last 5 years trying to stay ahead of the curve, and I didn't really anticipate that there'd be so many other cocktail brands that are coming to market. But with COVID, it's kind of accelerated this e-commerce habit of buying alcohol online, and the transition of spend from kind of bars and restaurants back to the home. So, I think there's a lot to be, excited about for the category that we're in. I think the alcohol industry too is starting to see a big shakeup in terms of regulation, with all of these COVID related business shutterings. They're trying to figure out ways to make it, possible for small businesses to, make new revenue streams. So you have like a lot of restaurants and bars that are able to do drinks to go where they never were before. So that's creating a lot of consternation in like the liquor store, lobbyist area, and everyone's trying to kind of figure out what the new normal is with, commerce and alcohol. I think for us, we're kind of well positioned. We've been kind of thinking about it for 5 years. So yeah, I'm excited about it.
What percentage of your business is expected to be direct to consumer versus, wholesale?
Well, it has the appearance of direct to consumer, but everything is actually sold and shipped by liquor licensed retailers. We use technology on our site to make sure that all of that conforms to the 3-tier compliant, the 3-tier regulations.
Right.
But I think I think
that the difference of let's separate it instead. E-commerce versus like convenience or grocery.
Yeah. This year, it'll be about 90-10 e-commerce to traditional brick and mortar retail. The following year, probably similar. And then the third year after, probably be more 50-50.
Yeah. So, and that's fascinating. So in times past, you almost always would launch into the distributor channels, into those things. And then you'd hope that you could then build an e-commerce momentum behind it. And you guys are really launching primarily, e-commerce, and then looking to distribute like larger distribution and other things down the road. I think that is a perfect example of how much the industry has evolved over the past 3 or 4 years. Right?
Yeah.
You didn't be able to do that.
Yeah, I don't. A lot of the alcohol companies are not really kind of equipped with personnel that understand e-commerce. So we were able to kind of get in and take advantage of the demand that was starting to build up quickly because of all of the beauty in, e-commerce stuff that we had done in beauty.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
we're catching up now.
So I'm a big believer that the businesses we build should help us live the life that we want, right? Mm-hmm. So what's one major item on your personal bucket list that you're going to accomplish in the next 12 months?
Personal list that has nothing to do with business?
Yep.
Whew, I mean, teach my kid how to read and do some arithmetic, basic arithmetic. Maybe probably lose 15-ish pounds.
Right.
Cut out. Certain parts of my diet. I got a few.
Yeah. And hopefully your kid's not like 15 and we're trying to teach him read.
He's a 1.5.
Awesome, man. That's cool. Yeah. It's that's a fun stage of life. And hopefully the business is giving you that freedom to still live the life you want, be the family man you want. And it's been really good getting to know you a little bit, learning about DRNXMYTH. People should check you out online at drinksmith.com. If you're listening to the show, it's spelled uniquely. It's DRNXMYTH.com. But if you're watching or if you're on podcast, all of the link will be in our description in our bios. So check that out. You can find them on Instagram and you can find them on their website. But definitely check it out. Really cool product, amazing branding and packaging. Really, really great getting to know you a little bit and talking about your journey.
Yeah. Thanks, Tyler. Much appreciated.
All right. Now, all my biz ninjas, wherever you're listening, it is your turn to go out and do something. Go out and do something. Go out and do something.
Thank you for listening to BizNinja Entrepreneur Radio with Tyler Jorgensen. Please make sure to subscribe so you're first to hear new interviews and episodes. If you found this podcast to be valuable, please share it with a friend. Don't forget to visit our online dojo at BizNinja.com to claim your reward for listening to the show.